In the last 21 days, I lost 3 kilos only eating Indian food. I'm going to show you in this video exactly how you can do the exact same thing and keep your results forever. And whether you eat South Asian food once a week or every single day, you're going to need to know how to manage it in order to get in shape and stay in shape forever. And you're going to fall in one of two camps when you're looking at traditional South Asian food. You're going to sit on this side of the camp where you're thinking, my mum, my family, we all make it healthy, minimal oils, but we're still not dropping weight. And then on this side of the coin is people who eat traditional food the old way, where they cannot change the ghee, they cannot change the oil, and they want it in large portion sizes that equally never get in shape. And what's the difference over a 3-week period that I did to lose 3 kilos when these two groups of people like yourself can't do either? So I wanted to break as many barriers as possible to make sure that no one could have an argument in the way that I did my diet. So I set it up in 3 separate stages. Week number 1 was eating meat and traditional food. Week number 2 was veggie food only. And week number 3, it was veggie, no eggs. And I wanted to show every kind of category of traditional South Asian meal can be used for fat loss if done the right way. So let me break it down for you. The easiest way that we need to start this pyramid of importance of breaking down any type of diet, whether it's traditional food, Mexican food, McDonald's, they all come under the same metric of what's needed to drop fat. There's nothing special or elusive about traditional food. It just has an ability to rack up the calories really, really quickly, or equally find lots of sneaky bits that you're not really aware of because of the cultural dynamics, how you've eaten traditional food in the past, and how it's blocking you from doing these particular things. So the easiest way that you start with is calories in versus calories out. If you eat too many calories, regardless of where they come from, how they get into your diet, or whether you're aware of it, you will not lose body fat. So the easiest way to calculate your calories, like I did on my diet, was take your body weight in pounds and times it by 10. So for me, that was 165 pounds, and that's 1,650 calories on a day-to-day basis. Now, regardless of what I get from that 1,650, I will lose body fat over a 7, 14, 21 day period because I'm simply doing the things that are required for oxidizing fat, losing fat, getting rid of that stubborn belly fat, regardless of any argument in the world. And if you're not losing fat, you're not doing those things. Step number 2 is I set up a daily activity target. So I was training 4 days a week, upper, lower, which is 4 sessions over that time period, 2 for the upper body, 2 for the lower body, and a general day-to-day step target of 10 to 12,000 steps. The reason why most of you fail around nutrition and training is you don't have the right balance between activity and the amount of calories that you eat. Most people's hurdles is the diet, but if you also combine that with low activity levels, when you do go over on the weekends, it can have really high levels of deleterious effects and make you gain fat really, really quickly. You have no calories burned, but you have a lot coming in. A really big recipe for fat gain. And then when breaking down the diet, the easiest thing that you can do, which I did the exact same thing on, is you set a meal structure out and work within the meal structure. You don't want to have random meals. You don't want to do long times without eating. Your job is to survive and carry through consistency on a diet, not just try the most fastest, easiest way to drop water weight really, really quickly. So for me, and what I do with my South Asian clients, is we set out a normal structure of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 1 snack before bed. No one wants to go bed hungry. People don't want to go long times without food. People like yourself or people from the South Asian community cannot handle hunger for long periods of time without there being snacks, handfuls of nuts, increase of like chevro or portion sizes increasing in the next meal. You want to avoid these as much as possible because you don't want additional food. That's the first rule of losing fat. You can't eat more food if you've got your set calorie target. So now that I've got my 4 meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the snack, I want to classify how many calories go into each one of those. Now, the way that you want to work this out, the biggest common denominator around people that fail with traditional food or the South Asian in the community fail at the first hurdle, which is they don't get specific enough with the portion sizes they're eating of the particular food. So what I did, I plugged in my favorite meals that are traditional but also high in protein, and used ChatGPT or an AI software to give me a recipe that I could cook that stayed within the calorie range but still kept the traditional food in there. So I'll give you an example. Breakfast with things like egg burji, paneer burji, chicken biryani, butter chicken, chicken tikka, paneer tikka, dal makhni, mansoor dals, all these variations which are staples, khichdi for example, they're all staples within the South Asian community's diets, but most people don't understand how much of it they need to have to lose fat. And then once you have the recipe for each of those meals, it's about understanding whether you're batch cooking, where you're doing multiple meals in one go, or you're cooking fresh every single day. I had the luxury of being able to cook fresh food every single day as I have a help and a maid, and that allows me to just eat fresh and not worry about food across the week. If you are time poor, you struggle managing your time, you end up ordering a takeaway every single time that you don't have food prepared, you need to be a batch cooker, someone that cooks 3 dishes in one go, or a big bowl of khichdi, a big massive butter chicken, and then portioning it out over a few days, especially if you've got family members as well. You can do this whole big thing and it costs you no time to add double meals to each day. So I've set my activity level, I've set the calories that I was on, I've set the recipes that I wanted for each of those meals, I know exactly the amount of grams that I'm going to use for each of those meals. Now it's about making sure that my macronutrients, my protein, my carbs and my fats and my fiber are all in the best place to make a sustainable long-term diet, as well as maintain my muscle tissue, if not grow a little bit during this fat loss phase. So I needed 165 grams of protein, because that's 1 pound per body weight, and that was easily split over 4 meals, whether it was going to be the chicken, whether it's the different variations of eggs for breakfast, or having high protein snacks in the evening to get that 165 over that course of the 4 days. You don't need to do 4 meals or 5 meals or multiple servings across a day as long as you hit that 165, but I tend to find that the easiest way to do that is splitting it over your meals, as opposed to having meal with minimal protein, then loads of protein shakes, then back to a low protein meal again, and then loads of protein shakes. It just doesn't make from a sustainable perspective, or if you don't like protein shakes, it puts you in a bit of a difficult situation. Week number 1 was relatively easy for me, dropping over a kilo in just 7 days by just simply eating food that I liked. I love butter chicken, I love chicken biryani, I love any type of the chicken tikka made in the air fryer with that yogurt kind of glazing with all the spices. It's unbelievable. And the funniest thing is because I had veggies and I had carbs in most of my meals, I wasn't hungry at least for the first 10 days. My meals were spread out really nicely. I had high volume food sources. I wasn't having like one roti most of the time. They saved for the second week with the veggie food, but I was having large amounts of rice, large amounts of veggies, and then obviously my high protein sources of each of my meals. Week number 2 is where it gets pretty interesting, because I'm a meat eater by heart, but this week it was only veggie food. So this is how I got my veggie recipes for the week ahead. So I put out my favorite protein sources that had higher protein, lower calories, to make sure I was making the most out of a dieting phase and not being hungry and spending all my calories on paneer, which I absolutely love. You only get 80 grams of paneer for 200 calories and not that much protein. It isn't always the best option, especially if it's the full fat paneer. So I listed out my protein items. My tofu, my corn, my soy, my Linda McCartney's sausages, for example, my dals, my lentils, my rajma, my chanas. And I put all those out in terms of those are the protein sources that I wanted. And then I looked through one of the recipes that I'd made. And if you want this recipe guide, all you need to do is just click the link below in the bio and you can have it for yourself. Once I found the recipes around like tofu stir fry, paneer tikka made in the air fryer, everything for paneer burji, as well as khichdi or rajma with rice, all of these really hit the spot for me. So I then again plugged in the calories that I needed and therefore the measurements I needed for each of one of these meals to keep it traditional but keep it within my calorie range. And surprisingly enough, it was actually really nice. For most of the meals where I had the dals, lentils or rajma, because of this lack of leucine, which is the muscle growth amino acid, I had to supplement that with an EAA or essential amino acid to make sure that it was a complete protein source, because most people make the mistake that they add a little bit of yogurt or they try and add rice to dal to make this complete protein source, which is complete bollocks. Yes, they're a complete protein source to a certain degree, but they lack the quantity and the quality of leucine, which normally comes from, if you're veggie, comes from the tofus, the soys, and the yogurts. But if you're having the dals, rajmas, and chanas, you need to have the additional EAAs on the side to make it a full, complete protein source with the right amount of leucine, over 1 to 2 grams per meal, to trigger muscle protein synthesis, which is in a short way of saying that your body builds and retains muscle tissue with the trigger of that stimulus of leucine being available. Just having rajma chana with a little bit of yogurt and rice isn't going to do shit. So you have to be super specific, and then in that second week, that's when I got a lot more specific with my meal timings, with the EAAs additional to those meals where I had the beans and the lentils and the pulses, whereas the other meals where I had yogurt, soy, or variations of mock meats, it was super easy to kind of have because soy has that high level of leucine, whereas dals, lentils don't. And the biggest thing I noticed during week number 2 was actually that my fullness increased because of the fiber that was in the lentils, the dals, the quality of the tofu, the volume of the tofu. Because per square inch, when you look at a block or 180 grams of tofu, it is a large, dense area, which means it's going to occupy your stomach. And your stomach doesn't even know the calories that are in the foods that you're eating. It knows only size. So if your stomach is this big and you have a block of tofu or half a block of tofu, it occupies a large amount of that stomach volume, as well as veggies and the the additional potatoes or rice that come with it. And that's when you start feeling full for 3 to 4 hours, as opposed to having, 2 spoonfuls of paneer or a little bit of sabzi, a little bit of dal, and you're hungry 1 hour later eating almonds, nuts, and chevro. It doesn't really work for dieting and consistency. There are basic fundamentals that need to be followed, and when you don't, you really suffer the consequences from an adherence perspective or following the diet perspective. No one wants to be hungry. South Asians can't deal with being hungry. It's seen as a bad thing or a unsufferable thing that they could not bear for 1 to 2 hours. Try and avoid this just because you might be a little bit hungry, and then that leads to overeating, and that's not useful for any type of diet. And by the end of the second week, I'd lost another kilo, hitting my steps and my nutrition perfectly over a 7-day period. It was really easy to follow because the recipes were super easy. They had the grams of things. I just weighed them out and then cooked them, and it was super fresh. And I wasn't hungry, which is really important. Then week number 3 got a little bit more tricky. Veggie, no eggs. Now, I love an egg, so that's just an easy get out of jail free card for either dinner or breakfast. But in this scenario, there was no option. So what I did, I changed for 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐷𝐸 for breakfast with yogurt, but also dosa, sambar, idli, those type of variations with the yogurt or a protein derivative on the side. I really love a sambar, whether it comes with idli, dosa, even just bread, but I know that's not very traditional, but I absolutely fucking love it. Once you have those things, it's quite dense in volume, but only if you get the right amount of calories and you add veggies on the side. One plain dosa can be anywhere between 150 to 200 calories, but if you're only supposed to have 350 calories for breakfast, how you spend that other additional 150 or how big you make the dosa is really important to sustainability. I opted for smaller dosas and more sambar, because sambar, we had the carrots, the onions, very high veggie content within that sauce. A little bit of tamarind sauce and a little bit of spice allows for the volume in your stomach to be full, as well as getting that kind of crunch, that texture from either the idli, the dosa, or the chile. And surprisingly enough, it was my favorite breakfast for the whole week was either the 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐷𝐸 or the actual dosa and sambar. I could eat sambar on its own, on the side, with anything really. By the 3rd week, tofu was becoming a bit of a pain in the ass. I didn't really want to eat any more tofu. I was having the stir fries, I was having the curry variations, I was having it all in different formats all the way through the week. So in the week number 3, I changed my tact a little bit and went for a lot more of the dals, lentils, and rajman because of the filling nature that comes with it and the taste and flavor really. Tofu is very hard to make properly, and when you get a shit quality one or you make it wrong, it's terrible. And week number 3 came around and I found my 2 favorite new dishes: soy chunks and soy chunks. Those soy chunks can be done in so many different ways that they become so versatile. You're just in the air fryer, making them super crispy, drying them out, and then dipping them in some type of sauce or tamarind sauce or chilies, and powder them on top with the chili powders, the cumin, the garam masalas. It's just absolutely perfect as a dipping sauce on top. But then equally, you can make the curries and you can make the sauce and the gravies and then add the soy chunks to it. Now with soy chunks, again, it is super high protein. We're talking like 40, 50 grams of protein for like 250 calories, 300 calories, and they're dense as well. It was the easiest way to stay full in a week where I didn't have any, obviously, chicken or steak or eggs for a period of time. Then I didn't have the tofu to stay full upon. So the 3rd week, those soy chunks, and then combining those with either the dosa and sambar and idli for breakfast, or having those meals with dal, rajman, and chana in the evenings, allows you to get different variations across the day. Quite frankly, I'd eat soy chunks today, and I'd keep them in my diet, and I will keep them in my diet. You just have to be on board with the consequences of when you're veggie, no eggs. It's a decision you've made, and not everything is created equally. So you cannot get the same amount of quality of protein if you have so many preferences of, I don't eat processed food, I don't eat soy, I don't have eggs, I don't have these. And of course, some of these are religious reasons, and that's totally cool. If you've made the decision to cut down your dietary options, there are consequences to that too. You're sitting there going, I can't get my protein in, and I don't eat eggs and I'm veggie, but you also don't eat tofu, you don't eat soy, and you don't really like yogurt that much. You're setting yourself up for failure, and you will not get the same results as someone that is eating those things, and that's just a fact. You could eat 2 kilos of dal every single day, and it's not going to do the same shit as 50 grams or 100 grams of soy chunks. Most people in the South Asian community who are veggie, no eggs, are quite resistant to changing their food processes, and they struggle staying on a diet or making this a lifestyle for 20 years. Changing behavior, testing your own limits of going, I know I don't normally like soy chunks, I'm not sure about this processed stuff, and then challenging your own belief. Soy chunks are not processed to the same way that a chocolate bar is, but yes, you still eat chocolate bars, yet you still have chai and jaggery in your sugar. And yet you still have biscuits, you still have ice creams, yes, you still go out for pizzas and you're moaning about soy chunks. Give it a fucking break. And then you don't have to limit yourself. Then you get the same results. You're going to build muscle tissue, you're going to lose body fat, you're going to stay on diets longer, you're going to be less hungry, and then you've got more variation. The South Asian community love variation. It's what you grew up with culturally. Dinners every single day is different flavors, different tastes. And then if you're eating the same food every day, how long are you really going to last on a diet? How long? Not very. If you're eating the same foods every day, and every night is khichdi, every night is rajman, every night is one roti, a sabzi, your dal, and a little bit of veggies on the side, how often are you going to do that for? It's not a lifestyle. So having the variations of protein sources makes the different dishes perfect. You could have soy chunks 20 different ways, 20 different tastes, 20 different flavors every single month. And yet you still wouldn't get the same level of boredom, and you'd still get amazing results. So challenge yourself to have and increase your protein options across the week. And it's something I learned. I wasn't a big fan of soy chunks because I didn't need to be, because I had my chicken, I had my beef, I had my eggs, I had my protein powder, I had my yogurts. But when I was forced to do veggie no eggs, they were the best option per size and quality of protein to get my protein in and to keep me full on a diet. And if you do that once a day or have a soy variation once a day for 7 days, it's not going to kill you. And the research is really clear. Soy increases quality of hormones, not reduces it. The research is so flawed when it comes to the whole people adding myths of soy increases estrogen. Do you know what increases estrogen more than soy? Being obese. And if you're obese, you'll have the biggest weight and anchor on your body, which is belly fat. That is 10x worse than having soy mince or soy chunks every single day. But you don't worry about that too much, do you? So that's my 2 cents worth. And if anything, just from a research perspective, they look at the Japanese and Chinese cultures who have probably the most amount of soy out of any community, and they have decreased risk of mortality. They have better health outcomes. They're better hormonally. And if they eat the most amount of soy, then why are they not all having issues? And there's nothing special about the genome or genetics of the South Asian community when it comes to metabolizing soy. Yeah, you probably have a higher prevalence of type 2 diabetes and heart disease, but they're all also lifestyle based. And it's probably because you're over-consuming calories, you're bored of eating the same things every day. Anyway, my rant's over. But veggie no eggs, by the end of that week, I actually really enjoyed it. It's probably my favorite week out of all of it. Like I said, I could eat sambar every day on its own and have it with, a protein shake on the side just to get my protein in because of how tasty I made it. And the recipes are all in that recipe guide to do so. Now, what you can see is that I lost 3 kilos over 21 days with no aggressive measures. I didn't cut out any food groups, and I just simply ate the same foods that my clients are eating on a day-to-day basis, and done in a more controlled way with specific measurements and specific guidelines. Which then takes the whole premise of like, this food is good, this food is bad, this cultural food is good, this one's bad. And it takes it down to, if you like the food and you're going to eat it for the next 20 years, you want to find the right measurements and the right amount for your body type, the amount that you need to burn, and the fat loss goals that you have. And it's really, really simple. The implementation, however, is the hard part. But if you have a diet that you can follow, that you look forward to, that fills you up, and that confines to your social, cultural dynamics around food, you'll find it easy to stay consistent. You've been on a diet where you've had chicken and broccoli, or you've just had tofu and green beans. And how long did that last? Maybe 6 weeks, maybe a year. But you always fall back to the social climate that you're in. And if you're always around traditional food, you'll always eat traditional food. And if you're always around certain dynamics around food and eating with the family or having certain dishes or mum's cooking, you'll always resort to the mean, because the mean is easier than the high level of aggressiveness diet and 2 kilos off a week and losing 50 pounds in 12 weeks. But you will always come back to what you can do daily that's within your lifestyle. And if traditional food is in your lifestyle every day or at least once or twice a week, you need to learn how to manage it. And this experiment shows you that you can eat any style of diet, even towards the Swaminari and Jain. They're all the same principles, they're just different food sources. And if you take in consideration your calories, the amount of grams and specific measurements that are going into this food, you can eat literally anything that you want. As long as it has a high protein content, as long as you're eating food that's not going to create hunger, you'll be absolutely fine to navigate on a diet. We have clients that eat traditional food once a month and they have teriyaki salmon and sushi and Mexican fajitas. But we also have clients that have struggled with their weight for upwards of 20 years because every time they go on a diet, they hate the flavors, they hate the tastes. It's not part of their lifestyle to eat unnatural types of food sources. And then they go on these diets where we put them on, where they eat the foods that they like in the right portion sizes, and they completely change their life. Because being able to stick to something and the results that come from time and effort mean more than going on something that you can only stick to for 2 weeks. So if you can do something for the next 20 years, learn the right portion sizes, learn the right structures, and make it something that you look forward to eating, like I do with the soy chunks, the chiles, the dosas, the sambars. Now a lot more of a yogurt marinade with my chicken tikka, my paneer tikka. Forward to those meals. I'm eating them every single day, and I'm not getting bored. That's 21 days, 3 kilos off, and you can do it too. If you want to understand a little bit more about how we can help you get in amazing shape and stay in shape forever whilst eating the foods that you enjoy, just the right portion sizes, with the right amount of exercise and the right level of accountability and support, all you have to do is click the link in my bio, book a call with us, and we can actually run you through the game plan of how we're going to lose those 10, 20, 30 kilos that you need to lose, with results guaranteed, and the results that stay with you for the next 20 years. See you in the next video.